Welcome to Fail Forward Friday with myself, Roche Mamabolo, and I'm not alone.
Malesela
With
Molepo.
my esteemed guest,
Yes.
VIP.
VIP. Yes.
VIP.
Thanks,
Thank you so
CEO.
much for joining us. Another exciting episode. I'm looking forward to, some insights. We've got some amazing stories.
Before we get there, Doc, why weren't you here last week?
Where was it not?
You're traveling somewhere. I think you're jet setting again.
No, no. If Limpopo, your hometown, is jet setting, well, I'm guilty as charged.
Okay.
Right? So I was in Limpopo, so I couldn't make it.
Okay.
So yeah,
Vida stood in for you. Thanks, Vida.
yeah. but yeah, I think another exciting show.
Yes.
I missed this platform. And I have an interesting story to share. So the rule basically is two stories, and of failures or struggles or blunders or product mistakes or leadership mistakes, and the lessons that as entrepreneurs we can learn from that. Right. So yeah, I see you've got an apple. So you're catching up.
Yeah, Doc. Thanks for upgrading me, Doc.
I wish. Anyway, so how have you been?
I'm good, Doc. I'm really good. I think today's episode is going to be quite interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's a broader talk, and it's something that we're probably going to touch on in the few weeks to come, and because it's actually something that has been going on in the news as well. It's one of those, Doc.
Okay.
But I'm good. I'm good. Otherwise,
Awesome.
you asked me how I am, not how the story is.
Yeah, I know. That's how you operate. You just want to get it. Anyway, let's just get into it then, because I can see you can't stop. So you start first, and then I'll go.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And then we'll share notes.
Yes.
At the end.
Yeah. So I'm going to be talking about. So there's a video I watched. There's two videos. Funny enough, I came across, or three videos actually, in the last month or so, coming across around how Europe has lost its innovation, like its tech. And there's no European company in the top 10 or top 20 or top 10 tech companies, even though technology as we kind of like know it evolved and came from the US, from Europe itself. And the whole thing now is, the whole story I'm going to be talking about now is how Europe lost the tech race, right? So now, again, imagine this, from inventing the World Wide Web, so WW, the web as we know it, and I mean, Europe gave us the foundations of science and education, but
basically the Industrial Revolution started in Europe.
It started in Europe, yeah, and we know technology, though, right now for the US, for China, or for Asia, rather than Europe, and you'd wonder, and people don't realize this, but I mean, what is the biggest European tech company that you even know of, right? I can already tell you which one it is. I think it's okay. It's not the biggest, but one of the well-known is Spotify. But even then, like you didn't even think that Spotify is in a European
company.
You know what I mean?
Is Lyft not also European?
Lyft is, but I mean, Lyft is like small waters compared to like Uber and those kind of guys.
No, but I hear your message.
Yes. So now the whole thing, and again, talking about Lyft, and we'll get into it, but things like Lyft, they didn't innovate. They just copied what was already there. Uber was like the pioneer, right? And they just came in. Spotify as well didn't necessarily start that. You know what I mean? Yeah. In fact, I think iTunes was there.
It came first. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's Europe as we know it is not innovating. They're almost becoming just copycats, like maybe what Asia would have been. But Asia is pumping in enough money to start kind of innovating in that terms, right? But we'll get into that. So again, they've invented a lot of things, these guys. I remember Nokia. We spoke about Nokia. Nokia comes from there. BlackBerry, I think, as well comes from
motion. Yeah.
You know, so it's a lot of these technology companies came from there. Even computing with Turing and the Turing machine, back then in World War II, and they knew how to, and they know how to, and they've got the brains to do it as well. Now, as I said, the world right now is known technology, you think Silicon Valley. And Europe obviously has stumbled during this digital transformation time and has just been lost in motion. It's lost in the 20th century. In the 21st century, you wouldn't say Europe is known for that at all. In fact, it's probably known, and it's part of the issues. It's probably known for regulatory blockages, right? And I like what one of the things that says, but I'll get to that. So it's like Europe lit the spark of innovation, right? But others built the fire. That's one of the statements I saw.
Nice.
And it's actually very cool to realize that's exactly what happened. They started it, but
They ignited it.
But they actually, it's like they just fell away after igniting it, you know? So, yeah. So, one of the problems that these guys were talking about on the YouTube channel or on the YouTube video was it's a fragmented market. So obviously United States, it's a lot of states, yes, but it's actually still one. You know, it's all governed by one. Now, all of these parts, Europe is obviously divided into...
Europe is not a country.
It's not a country.
Yes.
It's just a union, and even within not union, but within Europe itself, each country has their own legal frameworks as well. So one of the examples they gave is one of the biggest issues about that is imagine trying to create an application, and you have to build an application for each jurisdiction in Europe. That's going to be very expensive, right? Because you have to do legal for Germany, legal for Spain, legal for all of these guys. You have to make sure that you are within the confines of what is legal and what's not within that country, which is obviously, again, it will turn out to be very expensive. So one of the other issues, for instance, is language. Because, and it actually is interesting to talk about language because in South Africa and Africa as well, I see that as a problem as well. I think of, again, in America, everybody speaks English. You know, it's yes, there's Spanish here and there, but it's English. In China, everybody speaks Mandarin. Yes, dialects and whatever, but it's Mandarin. Same as India. There's dialects, there's Hindus, there's Tal, there's all of these, but they all kind of like within the same sphere. Now you get to Europe and it's like completely, it's French, there's Spanish, there's Portuguese, there's English, there's German, there's Dutch, like all of that. And then there's all the Scandinavian, Russian, all those guys as well. Then Norway, Norwegian thing. Now you have to take that, and same thing, build an app that everybody understands. Now obviously with AI, we don't know what that's going to do. Maybe it makes it easier to build for the Europeans. But still, the fact that the legal part is a problem, the language is a problem, so it's a very fragmented society, continent. And I think that's part of the issue.
I mean, even with the European Union, you would assume, because I mean, I was quite impressed with how the European Union system, from a currency point of view, for instance, where you are in Vienna, you use the euro.
Yes.
You go to Germany, you use the euro.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go. And you would have thought that would be the foundation of unifying or coming up with this, unification in terms of, whether it's language or maybe that can also translate into innovation. Because you can travel anywhere. You can take a train from Vienna to Czech Republic to Germany.
Yes.
Same train, same price, currency. So you think that they're fragmented, but you think that they are also unified in certain areas.
Yeah, that's true. But I think maybe you're right, because you think because everybody uses the euro, it should be fine.
Yeah.
But we actually don't realize how not fine it is.
It is.
It's almost as if the money part of it, or the financial part of it, is the easiest part, because numbers are numbers. But when it comes to language, when it comes to all of these other stuff, you don't have to convert. It's actually, you don't have to convert many. With numbers, you don't have to convert many. Just this currency versus that currency. That's it.
I think also the other interesting thing, and we spoke about this, I think in our first or second podcast recording, that because I was quite pleasantly surprised to realize what you're saying, that they are similar to Africa in terms of their diversity, in terms of culture, language, backgrounds. They are quite different. Yeah, sure, they are all skin pigmentation, same, but there's different cultures in it. And you assume that would actually be, because we discussed in our first podcast that innovation comes at the intersection of different backgrounds and cultures, and you would then assume that because you have this cosmopolitan society in Europe, where somebody from Germany meets somebody from Norway, and they'll be able, with their different backgrounds, they'll be able to fuse the two and come up with something different. It's pretty much like different animals mating. And offspring, it's something unique.
Crossbreeds.
Crossbreed. So you would think it will be the same, and actually it's not.
And now I think, where that takes a bit of a maybe step back is, it's one thing if the metropolitan understands each other. But you have to break through the barrier of understanding. And the thing about understanding is nothing happens if there's no unity. We know that. Meaning, if there's no understanding, there's nothing that will happen, that will progress forward. Now, in this sense, again, I think that the metropolitanism of it, if that's even a word, comes from...
you can invent it.
I'll invent it. Now, that part of where they meet, it's easy enough for them to, oh yes, do this, oh yes, do that. Okay, but understand. But once it gets to, okay, let's communicate it. How do you communicate it? Who do you communicate it to? So in America, where the metropolitan still understands each other, someone must come from India into America, they need to know English. You know what I mean? And they have to communicate in English. And that's how I think the difference is that the metropolitan will then morph from a understanding point of view and just bring perspective from another culture, not language from another culture. And I think that's probably what the difference maybe could be.
I'll share my thoughts on that, but finish.
Okay, let me finish off. Now, there's two other things that kind of like stifles this whole thing for Europe, is the what they would call brain drain and risk of aversion. So there's a lot of universities that are amazing in Europe, in Germany, in England, and all of these places have really good, really good universities. Now, the issue now is these guys study, they PhDs, they're amazing on what they do, and they get to a place where regulation is like stopping them in a sense. And what's going to happen? They're going to flight. You know what I mean? They're going to go to a place where it doesn't where it doesn't stifle them, where it doesn't stop them from innovating or from growing. And what happens? They go to USA. So there's a lot of Europeans. I mean, these guys, one of Europe's, one of the guys that is like one of the big researchers in quantum computing in the US, I think he works for IBM. He comes from Europe, and half of his team comes from Europe. Name a technology, chances are they have it in Europe. One of the things, actually, funny enough, we say that, is Europe is actually in industries that are legacy, they are still quite good at it. Like energy. Yes, there's a form of technology in energy, but from an energy point of view, they're actually innovating. They've got one of the fastest growing plasma fusion projects in the world. I think some like £7 billion or something that it costs. But they have that, you know what I mean? It's within energy. So they are at least innovating, but I think it's more legacy than anything. But when it comes to actual innovation, technology as we know it, AI, technology, and all of these things, a lot of what happens again is the fact that the people leave Europe, go into America, innovate, and people know it for America. The funny thing that I read as well when I was researching this was that a lot of people actually think that, even Spotify, think that, yes, Spotify is huge, it's amazing, a big company, but it actually took most of its growth in the US, which is actually bizarre as well, right? And that's why I'm saying it's actually part of the brain drain is something like that, where a company that could easily do it as good if there's not a lot of regulations, if there's not a lot of red tape, could actually do well in Europe and grow, can't, because part of the regulatory system is that it can't grow because everywhere you go, you're being blocked, you know? Okay, and then the last one, second last one, but I'll just rush through these two.
No.
So as I was saying now, regulatory system as well, GDPR is one of them. You know, how many times do we hear of these big tech giants in the US being fined by European, this GDPR for privacy, you know?
Yes.
And I mean, I think Facebook got fined something like $5 billion or something like that.
The Cambridge Analytica story also.
Cambridge Analytica as well. So all of these things, they are good. We're not saying that obviously regulation is not good. Regulation is good, but, and me and you were talking about this earlier on, right? That regulation from a place of stopping innovation is not necessarily ideal because it does stop innovation. But the other around, and you made it a great example of Ford, where back in the days, Ford was the first mass-produced car, and everybody loved it, and because it was cheap, it was efficient, you know, it worked, and people bought the Model T, and everyone was happy. But there was more accidents in the Model T. It caused more accidents. There's no regulations for speed. There's no regulations for seat belts. And what ended up happening is a lot more people died. And then they brought regulation after that. So you almost have to innovate and then you regulate. Yeah. And I like that. I like that example very much, Doc. And then another one was where it went right for them, obviously, is, again, and these are all the exceptions, is Spotify, Aiden, Clarida. These are just some of the ones that it went right for. But most of the time, it actually didn't go right. In fact, maybe, and this will be interesting to understand, these failed ones that we've spoken about, your Nokia, your BlackBerry, all these big companies that we spoke about, how much of it was because of regulation in Europe, and how much of it was actually just them?
Interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting to actually go look through. But yeah, I mean, that's the overarching. There's so much we can actually go into, and I don't want to waste time. But this is actually, it was quite interesting for me to actually realize how much of regulatory, in fact, from a South African point of view, how much the issues of Europe could affect us, especially not from a regulatory point of view, but from an innovation point of view, because, I mean, you have Spanish people, speaking people in Africa, French speaking, Portuguese speaking, English speaking, and not even talking about native languages as well in and around Africa. So it will be very interesting as well to do a bit of a deep dive on how innovation in Africa if it has or has not been stifled by, again, the first 2 points being the fact that we are fragmented in a way.
Yeah. So I think a couple of things. I mean, in order for innovation to thrive in a society, in a country, in order for innovation to thrive, there's a couple of things that you need. So it's a confluence of a lot of things that needs to come in together, and one of them is that the language, right?
Yes.
If there's a common language, even though people come from different backgrounds, but if there's a common language that is accepted and used, that always makes things easier.
Yes.
But also, there's a whole culture that needs to be developed of innovation and acceptance to say development globally it's a function of innovation.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like how one can argue that how Africa was colonized through innovation.
Yes, it is.
Because here is someone, you come with your spear,
Yes.
and I can throw the spear and it lands here. Maybe I'm above.
It ducks you.
Yeah, and it lands here.
Yeah.
And I have a gun.
Yeah.
Right, and I shoot. Right.
Yeah.
The gun is better technology.
100%.
Right. So I mean, you fast forward from then to now, where the U.S. is quite clear that the innovation in armaments, for instance, is what will keep them
Relevant.
Yeah. So I think there's a culture of acceptance that progress in society is a function of innovation.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and it's a question of who is going to go first in terms of coming up with new things. So there has to be that appreciation. And Europe is an amazing, beautiful country. I kind of get a sense that their strength, they've done very well in terms of regulation.
Yeah.
They've done well in terms of maintaining their culture.
Yes.
Their artifacts, beautiful buildings and structures.
Yeah.
From 18th centuries,
Yes.
for instance. So they've done very well in terms of that. So they're very good. The mindset is, let's maintain what we have. The American mindset is, let's build new things.
Actually, Doc, can I
Yes.
jump in on there? And that's very true, because look at the stock market itself.
Yeah.
European companies that are on the stock market are much less than, I don't know how much times Americans, but every week I'm sure there's an IPO that's going on in the US.
Yeah. Yes.
And of new companies,
New
right?
patents
New
also.
patents.
Yeah.
And in the UK, and funny, I was talking to someone about this very thing to say, I think I was looking at Easy Equity, and I saw that they have a European market, or they have German, they have English, they have French, and I'm thinking, but I looked at the companies, and I'm like, who are these companies? Like all legacy companies.
Yeah.
Go to US with Tesla.
Yeah.
You get all these new,
Yeah.
vibrant
Yeah,
companies that are
20-year-olds.
Palantir.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not even. Some of these guys are a few weeks old, and they still like $20 billion company or whatever. And that's the thing you're saying now.
Yeah. So and I think it's a function of appreciating the fact that development is a function of innovation.
Yes.
But I think also the fact that there's quite a lot of money being pumped or supported in the US in
Yes.
terms of tech development.
And in Asia as well.
And in Asia as
Yeah,
well.
they pump it
very,
so
very,
much.
very true. And I think you spoke about education institutions. I was looking at the research, I forgot the numbers, but the highest number of PhDs in STEM studies in terms of graduation at the moment currently is China.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Right.
It makes sense.
Of course, you can argue, it's a big population, but
it's that money still needs to go in.
but the money still needs to go in, which then says if you spend so much time in research and development,
Yes.
right, it means you are very, very bullish when it comes to
innovation.
Innovation,
Yes.
right? And probably we are seeing it coming through now with your DeepSeek and all this other,
Yes.
right? That they have pumped enough research and development into
Yeah.
that. I'm not so sure how much or how big the Europe.
Funny enough, I can't think of a company in Europe that's like has a LLM model out there.
Yeah.
That's like a, you know what I mean? I know even Alibaba has one.
Yeah.
And I was like, Alibaba has a LLM as well. Like,
so you look at, for instance, Google. Google is a function of research and development, university
Yes.
research and development,
Yes.
right? So there is that element or that appreciation to support tech and innovation. But also I think the other thing as well is, fail forward. The Americans are not afraid to fail.
100%.
And I think that's what sort of nudges them forward than most other nations. They're not afraid to fail. So their attitude towards failure is it's part and parcel of what we do. And there's so much money floating around. If I failed here, there's a chance I will get funding for this other idea.
Yes.
I'll get funding for this other idea. Now, you mentioned Africa. Africa still has stigmatized failure.
Yes.
Right? We still laugh at people who have failed. The attitude towards innovation, it's still that attitude of, if don't break it if it's not, don't change it if it's
Yes,
not
not broken.
right?
Yes, yes.
And the Americans, the attitude has always been, how do we build from here?
Yes.
It has to,
Anything will do.
anything will do, right? So, and one can still argue that Africa is still grappling with, when we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Yes.
we are still grappling with the
Yes.
issues at the bottom of
Yes,
the
at the
of-
bottom,
of the
yeah.
hierarchy, and you can argue that America, Silicon Valley.
But that's not an excuse because China got out.
No, of course. But remember, China, their first concern focus was, let's
Education.
take people out of poverty,
Yes.
right? And how do we do that? We take people out of poverty through industrialization.
Okay, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
manufacturing, mass manufacturing, and supplying to the rest of the
Yes.
world, right? And when it comes to innovation, we'll copy and paste what the Americans.
Yeah, until we get to a point where we can
Until we
go.
get to a point where
Yeah.
we can then say, now we can take
Yeah.
the risk
Yeah.
and innovate. But the bulk of the population has been taken out of extreme poverty. So America, as a first world country, Europe as a first world country, you can argue that they are actually the top of the hierarchy. But why is Europe not
innovating?
Not innovating? And my bet is, to your point, fragmented society, different countries, different cultures, the propensity to risk. You spoke about risk aversion.
Yes.
That still failure is not something that is embraced and
Yes,
celebrated,
yes.
unlike in the US.
Yes.
Investment in STEM,
Yes.
research and development,
Yes.
it's something that also you can argue that they have not really, they are still lagging behind if you were to
Yeah,
compare
yeah.
other societies. So yeah, absolutely. You innovate and then you regulate. Whether it's in medicine, whether it's in AI,
Yeah.
artificial
Yeah.
intelligence, for instance, where a self-drive car hits somebody,
Yes. And you still continue.
and the innovators, your Musk, your the ChatGPT guy,
Yes. Sam Altman.
Sam Altman,
Yeah.
and all those guys. He was actually in Parliament, in Senate today, testifying. He was called in to testify. Mark Zuckerberg was called in to testify.
Yeah.
All these guys, they called in to testify. But that's after the fact.
Yes.
Right?
The thing broke before.
Yeah.
it even-
That's why they say break things fast.
Yeah.
So that when the regulators come, you already know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I think I think that's what Selma Altman was saying, because in one of the sessions where he was called to testify, and they were talking about this AI, because this AI is growing at the speed of lightning.
Yeah.
And they were asking him, so if you were to regulate this industry, what would you do? So he was giving a couple of steps on what needs to be done to regulate AI. And the guy, the senators then asked him, wouldn't you, if we give you a good enough package, wouldn't you come and set up the regulator? And he was like, no. Yeah. Exactly.
He knows what they're gonna stop
I'm
him
fine
from
on
doing.
this side.
Yeah.
You guys, I can help you. I can help you with tips on how to regulate this, but I'm not coming on the other side.
Yeah,
Right? So that's your job. So,
Yeah.
so the line of demarcation is quite clear.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
innovate, you regulate.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense.
In Africa, we still have this, I mean, there are still opportunities to break things and for the government to catch up, but we are not breaking enough things.
I think, Dogne, is, look, we don't have a lot more people, we don't have enough money to invest, but I think this is the best time to actually start innovating fast, because the government has
With
caught
AI.
up.
Yes, no, definitely.
Because if you can invent quicker, and the government then say, hey, whoa, it actually helps us.
Yeah, but you see, the challenge with that is the reason why we're not innovating enough or fast enough, like you say, is precisely because the attitude towards innovation. Should I innovate and I get caught? And
that's true.
So that stigma.
Yes.
So I'm more afraid of the stigma of breaking
Yes.
things, because Americans, they say break things fast, right?
You know, that's true, actually, Doc. Maybe let me explain it in this way. Like, we got a grant, for instance, right, for the technology that we built, and the craziest part about that is we almost needed to have an MVP, meaning we had to invest our own money first before we even got a grant. Chances are in America, not even chances are, in America, you can go to any person with a like a goodish idea, in inverted commas, a good idea, and someone will give you
I mean,
$1 million.
you spoke about it, the Juicero.
Yeah, exactly. That you said.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's actually bizarre, and what you are true to say that, because we actually do have an opportunity, but stigma is still stopping us. Yeah. Stigma is
Fear
really
of
stopping
failure,
us. The
fear.
government won't allow for you to fail.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they say you can't afford to
So
fail.
so in certain parts of so in certain parts of the continent, in Africa,
Yeah.
right, failure is, like Japan, for instance. There was this whole thing about Japan, that you are bringing the family name into disrepute. And in Japan, that in order for you to redeem yourself, you must fall on your sword.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively. Which means you must kill yourself to
it's
restore the
crazy.
honor of the family.
Yeah.
Right? In other countries in Africa, there's like, what are you doing? The whole community is
just
talking
relying on
about
you,
us.
yeah.
They're talking about us. You are tarnishing our image.
Ish.
Yeah, stop what you're doing. Color within the lines like other people. Right? Right? Because if you color outside the line,
Ish.
it's like...
And Africa is a very family-oriented nation,
community.
continent. Community-based.
So that mindset to break things, and for the government to say we slept on the job, we could have actually, or it's okay to break things.
Yes.
We'll regulate them. Because that's the American Senate approach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Their approach is not to stop and be like everyone else. Why are you doing this? Why can't you sit still? Theirs is sit still, but we'll put some guardrails.
Yes, around.
Right? But, once you are here, move on to the next thing.
Just on that, Doc, there's some other quote. So it's like, they say, regulation without innovation is like building a wall around a house you haven't finished yet.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what that is then.
Yeah. So I feel that, we still need to come out of the shell.
As Africa,
as the continent, and as Europe.
Yeah.
Europe needs to come out of the shell.
Well, Europe put themselves in a shell. At least Africa, we can say we're
Self-imposed.
catching up.
Yes.
It is self for them.
Yeah.
They are deciding, let's regulate AI before AI becomes a big thing.
Yeah.
But they don't even know how far AI is going to
And
get.
what you stifle the potential that AI can have.
100% in your nations. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, Don.
Awesome. Is that your story?
That is my story.
Awesome. Mine is a build-up to yours.
Yeah.
An interesting story, Project Titan.
Yes.
And I know you love it because you're a car guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Project Titan. Yes.
Project Titan, an Apple car.
Yes.
Conceptualized 2010 by Steve Jobs. Spoke about it in passing. About one of those days having an electric car. Electric car.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it, and we know what happened to him, and then Tim Cook took over.
Yeah.
And this was in 2010 when Jobs insinuated, or hinted, on it. Fast forward 2014, Tim Cook is now the CEO of Apple, and then they decide, let's resuscitate the dream that Steve once had. And let's come up with this thing called Project Titan. But they're not, because Apple is very secretive when it comes to their product developments. They don't, they don't announce them until the product is ready and they announce, right?
Yeah.
And there's this big announcement, right, and where people all over the world they, tune in to watch the product.
Yes.
Right? So they name this project Project Titan, which is a project to come up with electric car, right? It's launched by 2014.
Yeah.
Right, 2014 it's launched, and it has this whole duration.
Internally, obviously.
Internally,
Yes.
yeah, secretly.
Yes, secretly, yeah.
And they obviously assembled this A team.
Yeah.
You know,
I know they brought people from all over the place.
Tesla,
Yeah.
Porsche.
Yes.
You know, all these guys, they brought them in. Johnny Ivy, who was responsible for the product design, was also part of the team. So they had this A team, right? But the project was going nowhere, right? It was firstly in secret, so it's kind of like a difficult thing to keep a secret.
Yeah.
But in order to build this thing that you are building for the first time,
Yes.
right? You need to partner with other people
That
in the
has done it
industry.
before, yeah.
In the industry. Unlike phones, you know, develop this phone software, you can, because you've got the whole value chain,
Yeah.
you can secretly do that.
Sure.
With cars, you have to rely on other people because part of it is you are bringing external expertise.
Yeah, and I think I can imagine one of the issues is R&D on a phone is not as expensive
Yeah.
as R&D on a car.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. A car is a different value chain
Yes,
altogether.
regulatory
So you're growing from a space where you have built a value chain that you dominate.
Yeah.
And you are getting into a space where you don't have the value chain. You still need to build the value chain.
Yeah.
And you want to do this in secret. So it's a bit of a catch-22. But anyway, so they had Johnny Ivy, they had Bob Mansfield, who was the veteran guy for hardware.
Yeah.
So he was the chief hardware.
Yes.
Right? Because, I mean, the software part, you can easily say, you know,
anyone can build,
they have that
Yeah.
because they are pretty much a software development company as well. So you then needed to bring someone who's going to build the hardware.
Yeah.
Right, and so that is from 2014 to 2017. They assembled this team, and you know, give them a mandate, go. 2017 to 2020, the whole team starts to disentangle, right? Because for a number of reasons. One is so the vision of the goal, because it's an audacious goal that they had. Is, are we building an electric car because we are competing with Tesla, right? Because Tesla was already,
in the market.
market. And in fact, Tesla wanted to sell to Apple.
No, is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah. But then they decided no, we'll build our own. So the confusion was, are we building an electric car, or are we building a self-drive car, right? Because with a self-drive car, it will be easier for us to build the software for self-drive, because it's sort of like an extension of the strength that we have currently. Because we are a software developer, we build softwares for our phones and Siri and all those things. So it will be easier for us to build a software for a self-drive car and actually sell that to other car manufacturers.
Yeah.
Right? Those that want to do self-drive, fully autonomous car. Yeah. That we can do, it should be easier. Yeah. Or are we building an electric car, right? Which is also a domain that they don't know much, because you are building a car.
Yeah.
I like building a software and licensing it to other car manufacturers. Here you are building an electric car.
Yeah.
So which means this thing has to be able to run
on
electricity, right? Yeah. Which is something that you don't have the expertise on.
Yes.
Or we are doing a combination.
Yes.
Electric car, fully autonomous.
Yes. Yes.
And those, so there were those who were saying, no. Steve's vision was electric car.
Yeah.
And the others said, no. The world, if you are to build a car of the future, and Apple is known to be futuristic. Remember, Apple is the one that built smartphones when there was no smartphone. They're the ones that built, this is a phone of the future. So it makes sense that if you are to be manufacture a car, you want to manufacture a car of the future.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be manufacture a car of the future if it's electric, because already Tesla is doing it.
Yes.
Right? So we want to do an autonomous car that can actually be used as well for Uber, for transporting people en masse. So it was like, okay, this was before Uber launched.
Yes.
So, groundbreaking, it's fully autonomous.
When is this happening? 2016, you said?
2014, 2017.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's this two divergent
Yes.
viewpoints within the team. And that then creates a whole lot of
It's
division
war. Yeah.
within the team.
Cold War.
Yeah. 2017 to 2020.
So who wants to do a normal vehicle and who wants to do the...
So I'm not so sure who's, because I know Johnny Ivy was more focused on, guys, let's do fully autonomous.
Okay, so you
Self-drive.
probably hear
So I mean, you think about it, there's no steering wheel.
Yeah.
So you come in, you sit.
Yes.
And then there's a dashboard.
Yes.
And you operate the whole thing through Siri
Yes.
on the dashboard.
Siri that time is not even good, eh?
So it takes you, it's
Yeah.
full of, and you just fall, you drink tea or whatever, and
Yeah.
it takes you there. But the other guy says, no, let's build electric, and then from electric, build self-drive, right? Okay, and you're right, Siri at the time was not,
Yeah.
right? And then fast forward 2018, you then have 2018-19, you then have AI
Yeah.
coming very strongly.
Yeah.
2020, AI is coming very strongly. So there's this whole LLM languages that are coming through,
Yeah.
right? You are grappling with deciding which of these two decisions to make.
Yeah.
There's a third element to it,
Yes.
where there's AI on steroids,
Yes.
right? Now, it's 3 options, not 2 anymore, right? And Google is plowing ahead with their LLM. ChatGPT just launched,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's also revolutionizing the world.
Yeah.
And the question, therefore, is there's 3 options.
Which one?
We are not doing even very well on these 2
Yeah.
currently. And here's the third option. And if we don't catch up on the third option, we are likely to be left behind. You're left behind already by Tesla
Yeah.
on the EV.
Yeah. And
You are-
the AI, we haven't actually done as
You
well
have
as
not
we
done
want.
as
Yeah.
well as you want
Yeah.
on the AI. And the team is disintegrating. People are leaving the team. Who's this guy? Weinberg. Dowfield was poached by Tesla in 2013. Went back. The guys left. The chief hardware guy left. Went back to Ford. Right. The team is disintegrating. And once you have change of leadership, it slows down the pace.
100%.
Right?
100%.
And you're even
Because
left.
perspective leaves with the
Yeah.
people that left.
And you're left behind more and more.
Yeah.
Right? And, one Sunday, one of the during the week, the team has left home. Tim Cook sends an email into the team to say, we have an all-hands meeting tomorrow, log in, right? So the guy's like, oh, okay. And then they log in the following day in the all-hands meeting. Tim Cook starts thanking everybody for their efforts into this thing, but they're pulling the plug off the project. 600 or so people. I mean, they had a team of 5,000 people.
Just a car.
Just for the car. Project Titan.
Deep.
Project Titan. 5,000 engineers.
Yeah. But I know they didn't leave, all of them didn't leave.
No, some of them were redirected to
the AI.
To the AI.
Okay,
And others
okay.
had to
Leave,
had to be let go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you look at this thing from 2014 to 2020, 24? Because it was discontinued last year.
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
Right. And you then ask yourself,
10 years actually.
10 years, yeah. What actually happened here in this 10 years, right? And a couple of lessons. One is lack of clear vision,
Yeah.
right? When Musk started Tesla, it was electric cars.
Yeah.
So the vision was very clear.
And then it evolved within the vision.
Yes, it evolved within the vision. But the vision was quite clear. We
Yeah.
are building electric cars.
Yeah.
From day one, Project Titan was, the mandate was not so clear.
Yeah.
Are we building electric car? Are we building fully autonomous car? And these are two divergent, right? Because to build an electric car, you need focus to build it.
Yes.
Or do we build a software, self-drive software that we can actually sell? Because we don't know anything about building cars.
So they basically didn't want to build cars.
Yeah.
They just wanted to build
The
what
software.
drives the
So
cars.
yeah, so the idea was, let's build the software that does autonomous driving, and then once we are happy with that, we can build the car after.
But it's actually quite interesting you say that, Doc, because how do you build self-driving if you don't have data for self-driving?
So what they then did is they invested in a car. I forgot the car company in China, right? So they invested in that
And
company
they got
in
the
China.
data from there.
Yes, because remember, Apple has got a very good relationship with
China,
the Chinese,
obviously,
with China and the Chinese government.
Yeah.
Well, except now with the tariffs and your friend and his friend and the tariffs. Anyway,
My friend has been kicked out.
he left. He ran away. It's like, Doe just done very well. Please. Anyway, Doe just done very well. He's going on a victory lap. He's going on a victory lap telling people, Doe just done very well. Please, nigga, please. Don't even, the amount of lies that this administration is peddling. They believe their own lies, these guys. Anyway, I digress. Let's come back.
Yes, you're passionate about that guy.
Let's come back.
Okay, let's come back.
So they invested in a car company in China.
Yeah.
And that was going to be their testing ground.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then if it's working there, then they can roll it out to other car companies.
Yeah.
And then the car companies focus on the hardware, they focus on the software.
Yeah.
Right? So that was the strategy. So that was another school of thought within Apple. But those two could not come together. So when also artificial intelligence, ChatGPT came in, it was like, this is another, we are undecided here.
Yeah.
Here's another opportunity.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah.
And I think what Tim Cook's then decided to do is, let's pull the plug on this.
Yeah, on both, because they're not getting anywhere. Yeah,
we're not getting anywhere.
And the AI is the one that's actually going to be the reason why all of these other things work. Anyway.
Yes. And let's see. But I still think they are also late on the AI.
100%. 100%. Well, let's say, I think they are late in terms of the large language models. 100% they're late. They can't come in anywhere there. I mean, the fact that they were even trying to use, or not even trying to use, they are using, as they say, Apple Intelligence is actually built on top of, it's built on top of OpenAI.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, what are you doing?
And for a company like Apple,
you must be like your own.
Yeah.
There's Llama, that's Meta.
Yeah.
There's even Amazon has
Gemini,
one, and you don't even have.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So for me as entrepreneurs, one of the things that we need to be quite clear about is, what are we trying to achieve?
True. What is the vision?
What is the vision?
Yeah. It actually speaks to what we spoke about last week, Really and I, when we were talking about that 50-50. Never go into business 50-50 because when there is going to be a fight, because fights will come,
yes,
it's going to be Cold War, and you don't want that.
So for me, that's important. Stable leadership also is very important.
Yeah. Well, they do have stable leadership, if you think.
Well, yes, we think Tim Cook's here, but he was not
part of it.
Yeah,
Okay. But I'm
so, and I think, I mean, to slightly divert, you have a situation where you have this galaxy of stars, all these guys bringing experiences from Porsche and Lamborghini and Tesla.
Yeah.
You have assembled this amazing team, and then the problem is, you have this amazing team, you don't have a leader, the project leader, that has got that vision that the team should take.
Yeah.
Tim Cook's, for him, this was an experiment, right? He was like focusing on Apple. You guys built this thing, let's see how it goes. So there was a project leader for that.
Yeah.
And I think because there was a whole lot of big heads, people who are saying, I'm coming from here. It's pretty much like you're at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And you bring Ronaldo, you bring Beckham, you bring...
Yes.
It's
the stars.
It's the stars.
But are they do they work together?
Do they work together?
Yes.
And I think that here, that was what went wrong.
Yeah.
That you have these people from different backgrounds, amazing backgrounds.
Yeah.
Amazing engineers.
Actually, I can already say, Doc, and I think this whole thing and why they did it that way, where they probably was two teams working on two different things at the same time, Not Tim Cook. What's his name? Steve Jobs also did the same thing with the iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Where there was two types of ways to get to the iPhone: build it from scratch, or take the iPod Touch and build an iPhone from there. And these two went against each other, and eventually the ones that built it from scratch actually won the race, and the guys from the other side didn't win and they got fired.
Not true. So you'll have multiple work streams.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have multiple work streams working on different things.
Yes.
Right. And obviously they need to come back and report, and that's
Yes.
it. And in this instance, in fact, of having multiple work streams working towards the same vision,
Yes.
you have multiple work streams working on different visions.
And on top of that, you're losing sight of what's actually most important.
Yeah.
Because then AI came,
Yeah.
and both of you're caught with your pants on on your ankle.
Yeah. So for me, focus, vision, clarity of vision is important.
Yeah.
You know, as the Bible says, where there's no vision, people perish.
Yeah,
And they perished.
100%.
You know, stable leadership also critical. But I think also the fact that they did not have clear milestones, because for 10 years you are
Yes.
pushing this thing, and 5 years you need to know whether this thing is going forward or not.
Yeah.
10 years for me, it's, you know.
I mean, even Dyson did it in a shorter time.
Yeah, in a shorter
They failed forward.
Yeah. So I look at teams that had, I was reading about, I don't know if you know, one of my favorite coaches, Vicente Del Bosque. You know the Vicente Del
Yeah,
Bosque?
the Spanish.
The Spanish coach, the one who won the World Cup.
Yes.
Right? He had at Real Madrid.
Yes, where there were big stars.
Big stars.
Yes.
Even with the Spain, for him to win the World Cup with
Yeah.
Spain, it was,
Yeah.
you know?
But luckily for him with Spain, it was just two teams that he had to pick from.
No, for sure. But it's all stars.
100%, that's
Nevertheless. So that ability to say,
To hone in people.
Yes. Having stars is not just a guarantee that you will succeed.
100%.
We have seen teams that have had stars.
Yeah, Real Madrid now.
Yeah, it's struggling right now, right? So the ability as an entrepreneur to not only just put a started team, but to also be able to manage it.
Yes.
Right? And at the front and center is clarity of vision.
Yes.
What are you building?
Yes.
Crystal clear. Jobs was clear.
Yes.
I want a phone that will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yes.
and it's small.
Yes.
Go. He was very clear.
So the vision wasn't double.
No,
it was just the same vision,
Yes.
but two different ways of doing it to the same vision.
Yes.
Yeah, I get
But I
it.
think also it talks to growth, right?
Yeah.
Growth in terms of we are very good with phones and laptops and iWatches and whatever.
Yeah.
We want to pivot and go outside of what we are
Yes.
very good at.
Yes, I get you.
And how you do that, because you are entering into a completely different space. How you do that, you need to be quite clear, right?
Even more clear than the ones that already know what they're doing.
Yes, yes. You need to be quite clear of what is it that you are building. It's not
Because
like
there have been car companies that obviously have done that.
yes,
I mean, not car, phone companies.
Yes.
Sony did it.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
have a Sony phone, a car. And Xiaomi also did it.
Yeah.
And Dyson actually did it. They just weren't profitable.
Yeah.
It was never going to be profitable for them.
And I think one of the reasons why one of the arguments against the electric car at the time was, as they're trying to build these things, getting more expensive to
build.
Because actually, even Tesla, if Tesla was not because of government subsidies, it wouldn't have seen the light of day. Because bulk of their costs or the expenses was government subsidies. So they were looking at this thing and they were thinking this is getting very expensive to manufacture.
Yes.
But they were also looking at regulation as well. There's a whole lot
Within
of
the
regulation.
car,
Car
then,
industry
yeah.
is like,
It's crazy, yeah.
we are better off doing the software.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that's the counter argument for the electric car. All right. But I think for me it's clarity of vision. Yes, have the A team, but the A team has to be led by a strong leader with a crystal clear vision, with milestones as to this is what we need to achieve. So that's the Project Titan, the car that died before it became alive.
Ish. And it died, Shem, that one.
Yeah.
But I guess it's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as they get themselves out
But I
of this
think,
AI hole.
yeah, and I think now Apple is on the back foot
Yeah.
on a number of spaces.
Yeah.
There are new developed products, new. It's not groundbreaking anymore.
Obviously, yeah.
You know, so they need to come back.
But we'll buy, dog.
Well, because we're loyal to the brand, true.
We die with it.
But yeah,
We're gonna be like those BlackBerry people that still held on.
yes, the laggards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're falling behind, and they need something
Yeah.
to put them,
Yeah, one
back
step
to
forward, yeah,
to what
yeah.
we know them to be, groundbreaking innovation.
Yeah.
At the moment, when it comes to new innovations, they're lagging behind.
Yeah. No,
That's my
100%.
story, and I'm sticking to it.
So, what's the one sentence to go out, Doc, with the both?
So I think both stories are telling us innovation is critical.
Yeah.
If you stop innovating again, you are likely to fall behind. With your story,
Yeah.
innovation precedes regulation.
Yeah.
So innovation is always.
Yes.
A friend of mine used to say, "My friend, the answer to everything is innovation. Education, the answer to innovation, the answer to health,
Because
innovation."
things are constantly changing.
Yeah.
And if you don't innovate, you stay behind.
You stay
That's
behind.
good, yeah.
But I think with my story also is have a crystal clear vision
Of
of
the
the innovation that you're
yes,
building. Be
yes.
clear, this is
So
what I
because
want.
innovation for the sake of innovation
No.
doesn't help anything.
No.
Yeah.
Be clear what you want, work towards
like
it, have milestones that you are working towards.
I like that.
And I think Apple, multiple visions, not clear what they're trying to achieve, has actually
Diverted
and delayed them.
and delayed them.
And
Oh,
delayed
yeah.
them on most of the things
Yeah.
that they need to have
Yeah.
focused on.
What is it? Jack of all trades,
Master of none.
Yeah.
And in fact, I mean, we'll talk about it the next
Another
time.
time, yeah.
About the whole jack of all trades, because I think it's one of the misunderstood idioms. But we'll talk about it. So yeah, team management also part of the innovation is team management.
Yeah.
Manage the team. The Springboks have shown us that
Yes.
one vision.
Yeah.
When they won the World Cup in England, it was under one vision.
Yes.
When they won in Japan,
Yes.
it was under one vision.
vision.
When they won recently in
France.
France, it was under one.
vision.
And if you sit and you look at the visions, and there was a vision about pressure to say, you guys, you think this is pressure. This is not pressure. Think about
The kids
people
that are not at
eating.
home.
That's pressure. That's one vision,
Yeah.
rallying cry.
Yeah.
And in each World Cup, there has been that one rallying cry, one vision.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't say the same about their Proteas. It's as if these guys, we have had stars in the Proteas team.
Yeah.
But they choke, which means there's a chance they don't have the same vision. So they must actually be coached by the rugby guy, and let's see, because it's a leadership thing, right? So I'm sure if Jake White or the current Rassi, they will win because it's a leadership thing. But anyway,
Is that the pot?
that's the pot.
Okay.
Take us
Again,
home.
guys,
Take us home.
remember, like, subscribe, and comment. Really comment. It's actually quite interesting, these conversations. We'd like to hear what you guys think about them. Give us other stories that you want us to speak about, research on, and we'll come and do it again when we fail for it Friday.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doc.
Next time.